everyone, and welcome to my Reading Rush reading vlog. I am going to try and make this just one week-long reading vlog. I normally don't do that because they end up being way too long because I talk too much, but I am working 5 out of the 7 days for this readathon, so I don't imagine on the days that I'm working I'm going to be filming and or talking too much. So hopefully this video won't be too long, but we will see. So I have off today, which is the first day of the readathon, and then I have off the final day of the readathon. I do have a feeling that the final day of the readathon I'm going to be doing a lot of frantic scramble reading to try and complete all of the challenges, but hopefully this will go okay. So, like I said, it is the first day of the readathon. It's a little after lunch, and this morning I woke up and I started my first book for the readathon, which is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction novel that follows 2 sisters during World War II, and it is set in France. So far I'm really enjoying it. I'm only 50 pages in, which is always, you know, it's a little too early to tell exactly how I feel about it, but I think I'm going to like it a lot. So far, I do definitely prefer one of the sisters' perspectives. First sister that we're following is the older one, and she is married, she's got a daughter, she's a school teacher, and then her husband gets drafted into the war, so that's all I've really read of her story so far. And then the younger sister, which is the one that I kind of prefer probably because I relate to her a little bit more. She's like 17, 18, so she's a bit closer to my age. Her name is Isabel, and her story opens where she's at a boarding school that is like, you know, supposed to teach young girls how to be proper ladies, whatever that means. So they're teaching her how to cut an orange, and she's just not having it at all. She's very feisty, she's very funny, and she's already been kicked out of several other boarding schools, and she's someone that would just, she wants to be able to go and like fight in the war, and she's like, I can drive an ambulance. She'd much rather be doing that than like learning how to cut an orange. So she's been kicked out of this boarding school that she was in, and she's sent back to Paris to live with her father and work in his bookshop. And her father doesn't seem to really want to deal with her, and she talks about how her older sister didn't seem to want to deal with her either, which is how she ended up at all of these different boarding schools. So she lives with her father for a while until the war really kicks off in Paris, and then he sends her with another family to travel to her sister's house. So she travels with this family for a while, and then they end up getting split up. And so she's traveling through the woods, and she comes across this young man. He's got like a fire started, and he offers her some food, and she learns that he's like an ex-prisoner, because when the war started they released a bunch of prisoners, and he's headed to join the war, and she tells him how she'd like to be able to do that also. So he says, why don't you come with me? We'll stop by your sister on the way, we'll visit my mother, and then we'll go fight in the war together. So that's what they're doing so far. I know that seems like a lot of information, but like I said, I'm only 50 pages into this book, so yeah, I really enjoy that sister's perspective. Another reason I think I relate to the younger sister a bit more is she seems to enjoy reading in books, I think, because when she originally goes with that family to travel to see her sister before she's separated from them, the mother in the family asks her if she packed any food, and she's like, no, but I packed a bunch of books. And they're like, oh, that's helpful right now in the middle of a war, but I think books are actually very useful, so that's totally something that I would do, is like pack. Everyone else is like scrambling and packing their jewelry and their fur coats and all their money and food and things that are actually, you know, useful or could spend money on later, but I would totally pack a bunch of books. Anyways, yeah, I have to run a few errands this afternoon, and then I'm just gonna try and read some more because, like I said, I have to work basically all this week, so I don't know how much time I'm actually gonna have to read, so I'm gonna try and get a lot done today. So it is now after dinner, and tragically, but probably not surprisingly, I did not read a whole lot more of my book. In fact, I'm only on page 66, so I'm that far through it, and I'm still enjoying it. Again, it's not that far into it, so it's kind of hard to say exactly what I think of it so far, but I am, again, still enjoying Isabel's chapters than the other sister, whose name I'm not really sure how to pronounce, because a lot of the names in here are French, and I'm not very good at French pronunciations, so yeah. I'm just going to keep reading this book for the rest of the night. I honestly don't have much else to say. One thing I did want to mention, though, about this book is that it has a very interesting beginning to it, because the first chapter is actually set in the 90s, and this chapter just consists of us following an older woman, who I assume to be one of the sisters in the future, and she just climbs up to her attic. She finds this old suitcase. She's going through the suitcase, and then her son comes up to the attic, and he pulls out of the suitcase this picture of a younger woman, and it's got a name on it. It was like Juliet something. And it's not a name of one of either of the sisters, so I'm curious to find out the significance of this chapter and like who it was that we were following. I assume the old woman was one of the sisters, but I'm not sure. So that's also like a little mystery element that's in there, and I'm curious to find out. So yeah, I might update you again tonight, or you might just hear from me tomorrow. Hello everyone, so it is day 2 of the Reading Rush, formerly known as Booktubeathon, which is what I called it the first time I tried to film this clip. My gosh, these guys are just not doing well right now. Sit up, please. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening and I just got home from work, but I do have quite a bit of progress to update you on. So I'm 150 pages into Nightingale and I am still enjoying this. I really like the writing and I do like the characters. I think the plot / the story is a little bit slow or kind of boring for me right now, but I think this is going to be a very character-driven sort of plot. So once I start to just get used to the characters a little bit more and I get more invested into their story, I think it will become less slow / boring for me. So yeah, I am enjoying this and hopefully I'll get through another big chunk of it tonight. And then last night I did start my audiobook, which is Beautiful Boy by David Sheff. This is a nonfiction book. Basically, David Sheff, his son went through a really bad drug addiction, and I think his son Nick Sheff also wrote a couple of books about this, but this is their story from the dad's perspective, and this is the one that I wanted to read because this is what the movie was based off of, which is called Beautiful Boy, and that's a challenge that this works for, which is to read a book that you've already seen the film adaptation for. So I really like the film. I mean, as much as you can like a film about that kind of topic, but I thought it was really well done, so I wanted to read this book anyway, and it just worked perfectly for this challenge because there aren't a lot of adaptations that I've seen that I haven't read the book for. So yeah, I'm on part 5 of 12 / chapter 8 of 25, if anybody cares to know that. But I am enjoying this also. Again, as much as you can enjoy something that is about this kind of topic. I did realize today when I was at work, because I read both of these on my break a little bit, I realized that both of these are very depressing books. They deal with some very serious and upsetting subject matters, so I really want to finish one of these so that I can maybe pick up a lighter read and have it not be quite so heavy this week, although the third book on my TBR is A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks, which is also a really heavy, sad book. So I don't know what I did to myself this week, but yeah, I am really enjoying, like I said, both of the books that I'm reading. They're just very serious. They deal with very heavy topics. So yeah, that's basically all I have to update you on tonight, and knowing me, I'll probably update you again tomorrow. Hello everyone, so it is day 3 of the Reading Rush and I just got home from work about an hour or so ago, and honestly I don't have a lot to update you on as far as my reading because I haven't read a whole lot. I am on page 166 of the Nightingale, and then I'm on part 7 of 12 in my audiobook. I have to return this to the library in 2 days though, so I have to finish this pretty quickly, but the parts go by pretty fast, only an hour long each, and I'm listening to it on 1.75 speed, so hopefully I can get through this pretty quickly. I will say though, I am having a bad day. If it looks like I've been crying, it's because I have, which, not to be concerned, I have like at least, this happens like once a month, honestly. Anyway, so I'm just having an emotional day. So I don't know how much reading I'm actually going to get done tonight because, like I said yesterday, these books are just not very happy. So that's kind of the last thing I want to be consuming tonight. So I think I'm just going to watch some like funny YouTube videos and try to make myself feel better, and then I'll just continue on reading tomorrow and give myself a little bit of a break tonight. In lighter news, when I was at work today, because I work at a mall and I went shopping on my break like I usually do, I picked up this Great Mouse Detective t-shirt, which I love a lot. It is from Box Lunch. Paid way more for it than I'd ever want to, but you never see Great Mouse Detective merchandise, so I had to pick it up. And I was having a bad day, so I thought shopping would help. So yeah, I hear my dinner buzzing in the kitchen from the microwave, so I'm gonna go eat that, and then maybe I'll update you again tonight if I do decide to read. We'll see. So it is now day 4 of the reading rush, I believe, and I just got home from work and ate dinner. I feel like I'm having deja vu because I've basically said that every single day this week, but that's just the way it is. So this morning I actually finished my audiobook for Beautiful Boy, so that completed 2 reading challenges. The first one was reading a book in a genre you want to read more of because it's nonfiction, and I'm always looking to read more nonfiction books, and then the other challenge was to read a book that you've already seen the adaptation of. So yeah, with Beautiful Boy, it's so hard. It's one of those books where it's nonfiction and it deals with someone's actual life. It's so hard to like rate it or even review it, really. But all I can say is that I don't want to say I enjoyed it or that I necessarily liked it, because it's definitely not a topic that you could really enjoy or like to listen to or read, but I thought it was super well done. I really liked the writing, even though I listened to the audiobook, so I feel like I can't really judge the writing too much, but I also really liked the narrator. I thought he did it really, really well. Sometimes I get a little bit confused as to who is talking when it comes to listening to audiobooks, but the narrator gave everyone like different voices and he was very good at it, so I really like the narrator and how he did everything. So yeah, I would totally recommend this book. Again, trigger warning for substance abuse or anything having to do with that. But other than that, I would totally recommend the book, and I would totally recommend the film also. So yeah, I haven't read any more of the Nightingale, but I'm going to focus on reading as much of that as possible tonight. But today I actually wasn't feeling that much better emotionally, so I treated myself to a little shopping spree. So I thought I'd show you what I bought, because I bought some fun Disney things or fandom related things that I thought you might want to see. So yesterday when I bought that other shirt, I also bought this Friends t-shirt at Box Lunch, which I really love. And then today I went back and I bought this t-shirt, which I also love. I thought that this was just so cute, Rabbit's Garden Landscaping Service. So I'm gonna wear that tomorrow. And then I also went to the Nordstrom Rack, which I've never shopped at before, but I really wanted to try and find some shoes. There are like 2 specific kinds of shoes that I've been looking for, and I can't find them anywhere because I have really small feet, and shopping stores just don't seem to cater to small feet, except for like kids shoe stores, which I don't always really love their selection of shoes. But luckily Nordstrom Rack actually did have shoes in my size, and like a pretty nice selection of them too. So I bought some basic black Converse. I love Converse, but I only own them in mint green and like a blue color, so it doesn't really go with everything, whereas these go with absolutely everything. And then I was also looking for some like nude colored like dressy shoes, so I also bought these ones, which will obviously go with everything because they're nude colored. Then at Hallmark I purchased this Lord of the Rings puzzle. Me and my mom love to do puzzles, so this is going to be many hours of fun. It's a 500-piece puzzle. And then I bought some stuff at the Disney store, because where I work at the mall is right across from the Disney store, and we're over there all the time because we just love Disney. So we're like friends with all of the people that work at Disney, and I saw one of the people from Disney coming over to our store, and he just came up to me and said, just so you know, all of the clearance is an extra 40% off. And so we rushed over there and I bought some things. So the first thing I bought, I'm gonna just flip you around so I can show you. So the first thing I bought is this, I don't even know what you would call it, like a little brownie tray. This is what I imagine I would cook in this, is some brownies. So this was originally like $27, and I think I got it for $18 with the extra 40% off. Then I also got this journal. This is part of the Wisdom collection from last year, so this was $10 and then an additional 40% off of that. So this is from The Lion King, which says, "The past can hurt, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it," which is a quote from Rafiki. So I really, really like this. I love journaling, so I thought this would be a perfect thing to get for only like $6. I mean, why would I not buy it? And I don't have any of the journals from the Wisdom collection. I have like a couple of the pins and one plush, but I never got any of the journals. And then the last thing I bought was a mug, which I've been waiting to go on sale because I really like this mug, but I feel like I don't like it quite enough to buy it full price. So this was also $10 and then the additional 40% off, so it was only $6. And I really like this. I think I'm going to use this to actually drink out of, because usually whenever I buy Disney mugs, I just buy them to collect them, and I don't ever want to use them because I'm afraid of like the paint or anything chipping off. But because this is so cheap, I think I'll actually use this one to drink out of. So yeah, that was my little shopping spree for today. Now I cannot purchase anything for the next like 3 months. So yeah, I'm just going to focus on reading The Nightingale tonight, and we'll see how far I get with it. Hello everyone, so it is now the next day. It's like day 5 of the reading rush or something. I don't have a lot to update you on. I just got home from work again, and I'm on page 180 of this book, which means I read basically nothing last night. And I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to put that on hold for a moment, and I'm going to try and complete one of the other challenges, my least favorite challenge, in fact, which is to read a book entirely outside your house. So I don't like this kind of challenge because that's only good to complete if you have like a really short book, and I don't ever have short books. So the challenges that are like, read a book entirely outside your house, read a book entirely outside, read a book in one sitting, read a book in the same place the entire time. Like, all those challenges, they're okay if you have really short books. For some reason, I never have short books on hand. It's like I'm never intrigued by books less than 300 pages. So I tried to pick out the shortest book on my TBR, which is a little over 300 pages, and that's The Princess, the Scoundrel, and the Farm Boy. This is a New Hope, some version of it, I don't really know, but like I said, it's a little over 300 pages, so I'm going to start this tonight, and I'm going to read it outside of my house on my porch. We'll see how long that lasts, because for some reason there's just like a family of bees that lurk around my porch, and I don't know why, because there's no flowers or anything that they should be interested on my porch, but for some reason they're just always there. So I'm gonna try and read outside. Worst case scenario, I get stung by a bee. Best case scenario, one of the neighbor cats wanders over, because I have been desperate for animal companionship since my cat passed away in April, and I have been very lonely. So there's a couple of cats that just wander around the neighborhood, and I've made friends with a bunch of them. None of them wear collars, so I don't actually know like who in the neighborhood they belong to, which also means I don't know what any of their names are. So I've named all of them. So most of these cats probably have 2 names. The name I gave them, and then the name that they're actually called. So I would be very happy if one of them just wandered up and joined me while I read like my kitty used to, because the last time I read outside was with my cat. So this is going to be kind of a sad experience, but we'll see how it goes. Right, so I'm back inside because it was getting a little bit hot outside, but I did read 100 pages of my book. There were no bees, but there also were no cats, which was a little disappointing, but at least I didn't get stung by a bee. So I'm 100 pages into this, and it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's basically a novelization of the film, but it's split into 3 parts, and the first part we follow Princess Leia, the second part we follow Han Solo, and the third part we follow Luke. So I read through Princess Leia's part, and now I'm reading Han Solo's part. So it's basically a novelization of the film. There are some parts that are fictionalized that weren't in the film, but the parts that are from the movie seem to be like word for word to the film, which I really like when it comes to novelizations of movies. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's kind of like a middle grade novel, so the font is really big and there's some illustrations. So I was only reading for about a half hour, but I read 100 pages, so because the font was so big and all of that. So yeah, I would say that's pretty good progress so far. Now I'm just going to try and read more of The Nightingale tonight, and we'll see how much I get through. The next day, which makes it day 6 of the reading rush, and I just got home from work for the last time this week, which is why I probably look extra disheveled tonight, because today was a long day at work. But it's my last day at work, like I said, so tomorrow I can just dedicate the whole day to reading, and I've got some pretty exciting updates because I finished Star Wars A New Hope, The Princess, the Scoundrel, and the Farm Boy, and this completes the challenge of reading a book entirely outside of your house. So I read this on the way to work, and and then also on my break at work. So I'll be honest, I did kind of, skim Reddit or speed Reddit, whatever you call it, because I don't usually do that, but I'm already so familiar with the story, so I thought it would be okay if I did that. So I read it really, really quickly, but I did enjoy it. I don't think I liked it enough to continue on with the series. This seems to be written in a very middle grade kind of format, and also it is just a novelization of the films but told slightly different, so I would prefer to spend my time reading like new Star Wars stories, like the stories that aren't already films. So yeah, I did enjoy it, but I don't think enough to continue on with the series. And then last night / this morning, I read up to page 212 in the Nightingale, which I'm just not enjoying this book as much as I thought I was going to, which is very disappointing because it was in my 5-star predictions video, because I just heard so many good things about it and I really thought that I would love it. And I do like it, don't get me wrong, but I like it at like a 3-star level, so maybe the hype and everything made my expectations too high, but that's just a bit disappointing. And also, the odds of me finishing this before the end of tomorrow are lowered significantly because I still have so much of it to read, like over 300 pages. So I just don't know if that's going to happen. But tonight I am going to focus on picking up my 3rd book for the reading rush, which is A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. This is going to complete the challenge of reading the first book that you touch, so I picked this out in my TBR video, and I've actually already read this book, which means that I can possibly also speed read this because I'm already familiar with the story, and it's also not that long. It's about 230 something pages, so I probably should have read this for the read a book outside of your house challenge because it's a shorter book, but it's a very emotional book. I bawled my eyes out the first time I read it, so I would have read this outside my house, but then that also meant that I would have probably been crying like in public, which I don't really want to do, so I'm just gonna try and read as much of this tonight and then hopefully be able to focus most, if not all, of tomorrow on the Nightingale, but we will just see what happens. So these are my reading plans for tonight, plus possibly a lot of crying depending on how far I get. And yeah, I'll probably update y'all tomorrow.
Get excited. Here we go.
So it is now the final day of the reading rush. This lighting is very yellow, but that's what you can expect from my reading vlogs. This morning I finished A Walk to Remember. I didn't cry, despite still feeling like I really want to. The thing is, the first time I read this book in 2018, I finished it really late at night, and then I cried myself to sleep until like 2 in the morning, whereas this time I finished it in the morning, and now I have to go live the rest of my day trying not to fall apart. So that's where I am right now. This completes the challenge of reading a book, the first book that I touched. Like I said, I picked it out in my TBR video. So yeah, the first time, it's funny, the first time I read this book, I probably should save this for my wrap up because this video is going to be so long, but whatever. The first time I read this, I started it on the 22nd of September and I finished it on the 1st of October. So it took me quite a long time to read this book originally. And in my review on Goodreads when I finished it, I wrote now I remember why I hate these kinds of stories, because they bore me to death and then rip my heart out at the end. Because back in 2018, I wasn't really into romance stories, especially these kinds that are very like slow burn and they're just very sweet kind of stories. I didn't really like those. So I pretty much hated the entirety of this book the first time I read it, but then because the ending made me so emotional, I always said any book or movie that is able to make me feel that way deserves a higher rating, so I give it 4 stars, despite basically hating most of this book. But this time around, I guess probably because I like romance stories a little bit more, and because I was already familiar with the story and the characters, I didn't find it boring at all, and I actually really loved the entirety of this book, and I was very invested in the story, even during the slower parts. I found it to be very sweet, and not like sickly sweet like some YA romances are these days, but it was just the right amount of sweet that made it feel quite realistic, and it was just a lovely story. There's the last line of the prologue that I think just sums up this book perfectly. So it says, "First you will smile and then you will cry. Don't say you haven't been warned." And I think that just sums this up perfectly. So this time around, I gave it 5 stars. So that's that. Now, all I have left to complete the last 3 challenges of this readathon is to read the last 350 pages of the Nightingale. I'm going to try my best to finish it before the end of the day, but I really just don't know if that's going to happen. So I'm going to eat lunch, I'm going to go to the grocery store, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm really gonna try to finish this book. Alright, so it is now 5 o'clock in the evening, and I am on page 304 in the Nightingale. I think I'm about 260 pages from the end, and I've come to a bit of a realization, and that is that I am kind of bored with this book. It's pretty slow, and don't get me wrong, I do still like it. I definitely don't dislike this book by any means. I do like it. I do find myself being invested in the character stories, and I definitely want to see how the story plays out, but right now it's just kind of slow and I'm just kind of bored, which makes binge reading the last 260 or whatever pages of this book tonight really difficult. And I do think that this is the kind of story, this is the kind of genre, but specifically with how heavy this topic is, I think for me personally this is something that I would enjoy better, and I'd appreciate the story more if I read it slower and just read a little bit of it every day to be able to just fully appreciate the story. So I was thinking about whether I wanted to binge it tonight and just complete those last 3 challenges for the reading rush, or if I wanted to just put it down, sacrifice those 3 challenges to be able to possibly enjoy this book more by reading it slower throughout the next week. So I decided to go with the latter and put this book down tonight. I am a little bit disappointed that I won't be completing all of the challenges, because usually I do pretty well with the reading rush and completing all of the challenges, but if it means that I can enjoy this book more and I can appreciate the story and the characters more, then I'm willing to do that. And overall, if you think about it, I basically worked full-time this week, and I've been very out of the groove of going back to work. This was basically like my first week back to work, so I've been very tired when I came home, but I was still able to finish 3 whole books, so I still feel pretty proud of myself. And overall, I think I read about 1,180 pages, including the 300 pages that I read of this book, so I still feel pretty good about it, even though I wasn't able to complete all of the challenges. I did complete 4 out of 7 challenges though, so it's more than half. But that does mean that we have come to the ending of this reading vlog. Before I end it though, I did want to just do a quick little wrap up of all of the books that I read this week. So I started off reading Beautiful Boy. Actually, I listened to the audiobook of Beautiful Boy by David Sheff, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really well done. This completed 2 challenges, the challenge of reading a book that you've already seen the adaptation for, and the challenge of reading a book in a genre that you want to read more of. I then read Star Wars: A New Hope, The Princess, the Scoundrel, and the Farm Boy by Alexandra Bracken, and I gave this 3.5 stars, and this completed the challenge of reading a book entirely outside your house. And then the third book I read is over here, and that is A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. This completed the challenge of reading the first book that you touched, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. So overall, even though I didn't complete all the challenges, I think I did pretty good anyway with my reading, and I also really enjoyed all of the books that I read, despite The Nightingale being a little bit boring at times. But yeah, leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. I'd love to discuss them with you in the comments. I hope you all enjoyed this reading vlog. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!
You hear that, Samson?